I'm Lauren Bailey from Nash-Rocky Mount Early College High School, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Supt with Cathy Wittman, Director of Professional Development. Ms. Wittman, how are you?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. That's great. What are your responsibilities as Director of Professional Development for the Nash-Rocky Mount Public Schools?
Lauren, I like to say that I connect dots. One of my responsibilities is to look at all of the different learning that takes place across the different departments in Nash-Rocky Mount schools and make sure that what's going on in curriculum and instruction, facilities and maintenance, child nutrition, that we all have the same goals and that we are all continuously learning as adults so that we can assist students with their learning.
What led you to this career option in our school system?
I started my career as a teacher for exceptional children. I've taught academically gifted students, kindergarten and preschool. And then I went back to school to get my master's in library science. And it was during my time in the library, in the media center, that I got really passionate about learning grade to grade, that progression of learning, because I got to see classes pre-K to 5. And this, of course, led me to go back to school and study curriculum, where I then went to central office as the pre-K 5 curriculum specialist. And along the way, I had this great idea to hold this teaching and learning conference here in the district called Destination Innovation. And somehow that was a big hit, and they like to say the rest is history. But it led me to being Director of Professional Learning.
What is professional development and why is it important?
Well, I'm going to start with the why it's important first. When you ask parents, community members, anything, what's the single most important thing they'd like to see in a school? And it's always going to be they want the best teacher possible in every classroom. Well, in order to ensure that, because research confirms that the single greatest factor on student achievement is the quality of the teacher in front of the classroom. To ensure that, we have to engage teachers in lifelong learning, just as students learn every day. Education and the research is continually changing. So what we learned in college may be very different than what we need to know and apply now. Professional development can be a conference, it can be a workshop, but we're really evolving in that field as well. And it really is about teachers collaborating, coming together, to look at what students need to know and be able to do. And in order for students to know what they need to do, how can teachers help them? And so they have to engage in learning just as you do in the classroom.
What are the district's goals for professional development?
Well, if you look at our mission, vision, and strategic plan, you know that we have our strategic priority number 1 is high student achievement. Number 3 is that NRMPS students will be directed by 21st century professionals. And number 4 encourages us to use cutting-edge technology. So all of the professional development that we design, deliver, and implement is really aligned to that strategic plan. Now at the school level, schools sometimes have very specific needs, and their professional development is tailored or differentiated or personalized for them.
How does professional development affect students in the classroom?
All professional development starts with student outcomes. When I look at designing or contracting with groups to deliver professional development, the first question is always going to be, what do students need? And sometimes that means that we look at achievement data. For example, we might look at biology scores and see which standards, which Common Core standards did students struggle with, if you want to use the word struggle, or which ones were they least successful with. And then we ask ourselves, so what do teachers need to do to help students through that piece of the learning? And sometimes that means we have to deliver or design a particular workshop for teachers so that they can go into the classrooms and apply that new learning in order to help students.
What areas do you focus on in the workshops?
I hate to repeat myself, but that's going to go back to the student data. We do needs assessments. Schools, individual schools, look at their data. The district, we look at across the district to see if there's a particular grade level or subject area that we can really address. And then we drill it down to, so what are the teachers struggling with? Just like we ask, what are students struggling with? And it may be incorporating technology into their learning. So then we look at providing the right learning for those teachers.
How does professional development help teachers and students become successful?
You know, one of the goals I think for all schools, is that adults and students are learning. Because when teachers engage in continuous refinement of their craft and skills, it's obviously going to impact your learning in the classroom. It's a model of lifelong learning. All educators should exemplify that. And together, teachers and students, when they're learning together, it creates that culture of learning. And everybody, it's like being part of a group. You're fueled by the enthusiasm of those around you. So it's back to that passion that when you see teachers are passionate about their own learning, it kind of spills over into the classroom and for our students.
What types of strategies are taught in the workshops you coordinate?
That's a good question, Lauren. Some of our recent professional development is all about those 21st century tools and that technology. Recently we had our digital learning day in our classrooms. I think your school was visited, and I know there are amazing things going on at the early college with technology. You guys are probably on the forefront. But our teachers need to learn those skills sometimes, and we have a wide variety of ability levels out there, just as we do in classrooms with students. We are working with the Friday Institute for Educational Innovation to provide professional development on those technology skills. We recently had a session that was outstanding. We have one coming up Tuesday. We also work with Pearson, who is providing our resources, your digital resources for your textbooks, Discovery Education. We have reading foundations and math foundations that are offered by our own trainers in-house. So once again, we go back to the data. Where do we need to help teachers help students?
Are there any other groups besides teachers that benefit from the workshops?
Absolutely. At the elementary level particularly, teacher assistants usually join in with their teachers. We do a lot of work with beginning teachers, offering support for first-year teachers. We also have professional development for retirees. In fact, today the Teacher Resource Center was open for any retiree that wanted to come in, and we would help them take online courses in NC education. We also work with administrators to provide leadership professional learning experiences and those that aspire to be leaders. We have social workers, psychologists. Now, I'm not the person that always designs all of that because I deal mostly with teachers, but each department knows that they can contact me and my people that work with me to help them design what's best for them. And even though I might not always be the person that contacts the professional development, maintenance, child nutrition, finance, every department in Nash-Rocky Mount Schools engages in continuous learning.
How do students benefit from the workshops that you implement throughout the year?
When teachers learn new practices and new strategies, they have to practice them. They have to apply them. So when they go back into their classrooms to take that learning from paper to practice, that's when students are benefiting from that. And then the teachers have to reflect on, does this work? Is it not working? And the more teachers know, the more students are going to know, and the more prepared you will be for college or career.
How important is it for you to keep yourself up to date on the current strategies?
Tremendously important, because education and technology and what we know about learning, neuroscience, everything's advancing at the speed of light. So what we thought worked yesterday may in fact not work for tomorrow. And I belong to several professional learning networks online and other professional organizations. I have multiple professional journals that I read. But some of our best learning comes in-house when we go into teachers that we know are having great effect, and we observe, and we even learn from students when you guys give us feedback about what's working and what's not working.
So how do you determine what strategies we learn?
Research, evidence-based. John Hattie is an educational research, and it talks about effect size. And there are practices that have long been accepted that really don't give us a lot of bang for our buck, if you will. And so we continually have to reassess what we're doing. We have to look at the research and ask ourselves, does small group instruction help students? Does descriptive feedback help students? What exactly does a teacher do that really impacts learning?
What's the most difficult part of your job?
Connecting the dots. I started out by telling you my job is about connecting the dots across the district and in all departments. But sometimes that can be challenging because we are all busy and everyone is doing what they need to do, keeping communication flowing. So sometimes I feel like I'm chasing those dots.
What part of your job do you enjoy the most?
Connecting the dots. I talked about how when I was in the media center, I enjoyed getting the bigger picture of teaching and learning. And I think once you start to put those dots together to create that big picture of how important it is for teachers to learn, for students to learn, to be passionate about lifelong learning, then, the picture becomes a beautiful one, and it really does fit the vision, mission, and strategic plan and priorities for Nash-Rocky Mount Public Schools.
Well, that's all the questions that we have time for today. This has been another episode of Ask the Sup. Thank you for watching. I want to once again thank Ms. Wittman for being here with us today, and I'll see you next time.